Welcome to the City Council regular meeting of July 6th, 2016. Please stand for the invocation. Dear Father in heaven, I ask your blessing upon our community tonight, and we thank you so much for the wonderful town that you have given us to live in for this season of our lives. I ask for your guidance for this body and your courage and your vision and your discernment and your wisdom for us as we govern. And I ask especially tonight for your blessing and protection over all of those who stand in harm's way to protect us, whether it be military, government, medical, first responders, social workers. I just ask you to protect and bless them tonight. And we thank you for all they do to keep us safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Earlier we met tonight at 6:30 as the Urban Renewal Agency for an executive session regarding real estate, and we return now for the City Council meeting. Next up on the agenda we have communications. Rick, do we have anything?
I will save my comments for the end of the meeting.
All righty, very good. Joe, did you have anything come your way?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have citizen input and community announcements. And I have just a couple yellow cards tonight. We have, first up, Sarah Spoon. Sarah? And Sarah wants to talk to us about the 4th of July parade.
My name is Sarah Spoon, and I live at 978 South Ivy Court in Canby. And I want to talk to you about the 4th of July parade, which, by the way, I thought the event was amazing overall. But the man who designed the emblem that eventually became the Confederate flag said this about his design. As people, we are fighting to maintain the heaven-ordained supremacy of the white man over the inferior colored race. A white flag would thus be emblematical of our cause. Such a flag would soon take rank among the proudest ensigns of the nations and be hailed by the civilized world as the white man's flag. I am not here today to ask the City Council to ban anyone from any events or limit free speech. I am here to implore the City Council to pass a resolution disavowing the public display of the Confederate flag. Canby is the town where I was raised and the town where I have chosen to raise my 4 children. I believe in this town. I defend it to my more urban living friends on a daily basis and insist that they have an inaccurate depiction of our city. I repeatedly insist that Canby is not backwards or racist or 100 years behind the rest of the metro area. We are the last great piece of Americana. But now we are at risk for being an embarrassment and for drawing attention to our town for all of the wrong reasons. On June 3rd, 2015, this very City Council set a precedent for taking public stands on controversial issues by passing Resolution 1217, a non-binding resolution. If the city can draft, debate, and support a resolution with no impact other than to be a written retort on gun control, then it has a moral obligation to take a similar stand on the display of a flag that paraded down our very own streets. Because we have actively taken stands on controversial issues, silence in this matter absolutely is complicity. If this very group of council members is willing to take a public stand on gun control, surely you can also take a stand on behalf of the resident people of color, which make up over 25% of our community, regarding the public display of racist iconography. If the council is not willing to do so in light of the precedent they set with Resolution 1217, then something is fundamentally broken with our community, where we are not ready to, nor will we ever, attract the new businesses, young professionals, millennials, and new residents that we seek. I propose something akin to 1. The City Council of Canby is opposed to any public displays of symbols and flags that signify hate or lack of tolerance toward any and all federally protected groups. This includes, but is not limited to, the Confederate flag. 2, the City Council of Canby does not condone or support any organization who displays such symbols. This is an opportunity to, without infringing on anyone's rights, demonstrate that we are a small town proud of our racial diversity, who looks forward to growth, inclusivity, economic revival, and overall advancement. not a town that will wallow in and perpetuate the small town stigma that causes hesitation from businesses and new residents alike. Let us show people that everyone is welcome in Canby. And while the Sons of Confederate Veterans may have the right to organize and a right to free speech, it in no way reflects the ideals and values of this town. I believe that Canby is a small town with a big heart and a modern worldview. And I ask the City Council to pass a resolution similar to 1217 establishing that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sarah.
Appreciate
Well
it.
said.
Thank you, appreciate it. Would you mind indulging us? You're the only one here with this subject tonight. Aside from the float issue, some of us would love to hear your perspective on the parade in general and the activities afterwards.
And we go to what was previously General Canby Day
Yeah.
for the 4th of July celebration, and I have for years. I've been a part of the Canby school system since I was 8 years old, and I've attended a lot of town events, and I loved that attendance was up, that there were some new activities. We appreciated the inclusion of a beer garden, more music, our kids loved the game truck. I thought that there might be more vendors, and I assume that that might change over time with a changing of establishment and organization. That's going to make some people hedge on whether or not they want to join. I expect, knowing that many vendors sold out because it took me forever to get lunch and sold out right before I got there, that will grow in coming years. And I think the overall the event was fantastic. I just wish it was a better representation of our community in terms of who was represented at the parade.
You bet.
Would you share your comments with me? I thought that your comments were brilliantly stated, and would like to use that as a starting point for a follow-up discussion.
Absolutely.
Would you mind letting Rick have your...
That's fine. I wrote a lot. I edited down for time. It could have been 6 minutes, but out of respect for the council, I didn't. But you can have this.
And I'll be happy to get it back to you.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. I sure appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you all. All righty. And as you heard from Rick, we are working on a response, and he really does mean it when he says he would like to use your comments. It's helping us put that together, so thank you very much.
I couldn't have written it better, so I appreciate you doing the hard work for me now. We'll just put the finishing touches on it, and the council will see it in the weeks ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate it. Anyone have any questions for Sarah? We good? Okay, next up we have Kevin Anderson. Come on up, Kevin.
Good evening, Kevin.
And Kevin wants to talk about paving.
Yeah, the paving on 3rd and patching. I've got some photos of what you guys can see. I've got a thumb drive, if you want to have that for the viewers to watch. It's just 15 pictures here.
Well, that's okay. We're fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bet. Anyways, as I sit here, I'm looking at you guys. I see board members. Mayor Hodgson, I would see it as the CEO. Mr. Rob can be the CFO. Would you be counsel for the legal corporate entity? Okay. Well, does this corporate board have a fiduciary obligation with their rights with regards to taxpayer dollars? Do?
Well, we hold in the public trust all the public assets. So,
I know, but I mean, just
I mean, it's an analogy, but it's pretty close.
so basically spend the money wisely.
Yeah. Well, we have to.
I understand.
Can you tell me again where this is taken?
This is right over on 3rd between, I guess it'd be Knott and Ivy.
Okay, thank you.
And the question is, see, I've got issues with the city injecting water, and those patches were paved over flat, then they're humped, then they're marked out, cut out, and repaved. And I believe there's an issue with the broken water main on 3rd. The catch basin in the alley off of Locust, for 3 years now, there's no bottom in it, so the water can perk down. For 3 years, it's full of water. The 8-inch ductile pipe that goes to the other catch basin is broken. I've addressed the city council. I mean, I've emailed everybody a zillion times, and no response. That's where my fiduciary obligation is, where I'm concerned about, because our infrastructure is going south quick, and we're going to pay them more because nobody's paying attention to it.
And I'll take a look at this. I may need to, if this is a water line you're speaking of, that's Canby Utility and not the city of Canby. Canby Utility is responsible for the in-ground water lines that serve our domestic water needs in the city. And in fact, in addition to doing the lines, are responsible for repaving those areas that they disturb. But I will, I'll take a look at it and can share the information with Canby Utility if in fact it's a water line issue.
Okay, I appreciate that, but I mean, I've tried to I've emailed everybody and no response. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money to replace all this, and I don't really care which budget it comes out. It's still going to come out of the Canby budget, one way or the other. Is that correct?
Well, no, Canby Utility is separate from the city of Canby.
They have a different budget and a different, actually different board and a different manager and a different legal counsel.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the wrong tree here then.
Well, not necessarily, because we'll at least
Yeah,
look into
we'll
it.
check on it, and if it's a water line, then we'll refer it to Canby Utility. If it's a stormwater or sewer line, then we are responsible for stormwater and sewer.
And if they disturb, if they disturb the city street and don't return it to normal standard, then we have standing to say, fix it right.
Okay, well, my point is the catch basin in Locust that is full for the last 3 years, it hasn't perked out. That tells me there's a water leak. And there's 8-inch ductile pipe that goes the other one that broke within a year, broke the catch basin apart. It shows the heaving of the pipe is going all over the place. It's just,
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you
Our City
very much.
Administrator has it.
one more thing.
Sure.
Up here on First, let's say Fur and First, up by Mike's place. Again, the water injection, there's voids underneath that brand new concrete. I mean, kids go by a skateboard and everything shakes. That's only, 2 years old? This water injection is a real problem for the city. I mean, it's
You said fur and what?
First,
Fur and First.
By Mike's.
Yeah.
By Mike's place.
And if anyone wants to see you there 10:30 tomorrow, I'll walk you through and I'll show you. I mean, it'd take 10 minutes and I'm just concerned.
Thank you for sharing the concern.
Thank you
Our
very
staff has it, and we'll hear back.
follow up on it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Any other citizen input tonight? No? Are we good? All right. Thank you. Next up, we have community announcements. Do we have anything, Rick? Do you know coming up? Okay.
I will say that we had a very successful 4th of July celebration, and we are now in final stages of planning for our annual street dance coming up the last weekend of August. So we're very excited about that.
Very good. Going to be a great event. All right, next up we have mayor's business. The mayor had nothing that could not wait another month except that he sends his greetings to everyone. He had a prior commitment that he absolutely had to keep, as in he's about to become a godfather. Not in the movie sense, but as in his best friend's new baby. So he sends his greetings, and he'll see you all in August. Next up we have councilor comments and liaison reports.
Not a lot for me, thank you. Not a lot for me. Served pancakes at the Historical Society breakfast from 8 to 9, which was great. Really glad to see that they had a really good, robust cooking apparatus for pancakes this year. Not a lot of people waiting, so that was a lot of fun. Had a great time at the Independence Day celebration. Did get a chance to see the parade. I was actually at a booth working, so didn't get a chance to see that, unfortunately. But lastly, Councilor Parker and myself and Councilor Dale and the mayor are playing in a golf tournament next Friday. So this is the time. Where's that?
We'll get a full report on
You'll
that.
get a full report.
More than
but
that,
right
but
now,
right now, yeah.
is we're going to throw down the gauntlet of the challenge of who can beat us, and we got to figure out a prize of who beats us. And I mean, can somebody come in and get like a free resolution or a free ordinance or something? And then, see, I knew it. Sarah's like, come on. No, all right. Anyhow, it'll be fun. We'll have a good time. But that's next.
We'll come up with
We'll
something
come up with
good.
something. We'll have something fun.
But
so.
no one's going to beat us.
We are well
Are we going
capable
for the
of having
highest place score?
We can easily have the highest score.
It could be arranged that if you lose, you have like, in a dunk tank into Big Neck or something.
Yikes.
Or making, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke
this
too
is-
soon.
And this event
This is
for-
the Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament next Friday at Willamette Valley Country Club.
Very good.
Starting at, I think, noon around there. Yeah, 1 o'clock. So, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Parker.
I don't have much. I participated in the 4th of July Independence Day activities, and one of the neatest things was going around with a fellow volunteer, Greg Perez, interviewing the vendors and the car enthusiasts and taking down notes on what people thought we could do better next year. So we've turned those over to Jamie, and she's going to be compiling it and do a full debrief. You know, again, remember, we only had 7 months to put this together, so I think it not only was a respectable effort, which was my minimum threshold when the night we found out we got this was, let's not screw this up. But I think we had added some value to it. So again, to citizens watching, send us your emails if you have some suggestions. We're going to be opening up for discussion the question of the timing of the parade. People liked it in the morning, but people said it's a holiday and they like to sleep in a little,
Yeah,
so
extra.
maybe pushing it back. The Historic Society said the early start time was actually a benefit to them, that they had more people coming in. So we'll try and shake it all out and do a better job next year.
And the committees would love more volunteers, so anybody in the audience and in the community, send the word around. This event will be successful, largely dependent on community involvement. So we'll provide more information as we go along, but we'll have a critique of this year's activities, and as Councilor Parker had indicated, please, those of you in the audience, please send any comments that you have, positive or negative, and those will all be considered. And join the effort and donate some of your time, and let's make this even better next year.
Thank you very much. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Council President Dale. I likewise served pancakes at the early shift, 7 a.m. About 8:30, I think I got out of there to scoot over to the parade. I had to line up in the parade as well, which was a lot of fun, as it always is. My kids enjoy that, of course, partly because they're hanging with your kids. And likewise did the fireworks and all the Canby Independence Day celebration events. It was a lot of fun. Also did the First Friday event. That was very fun. It was very cool because there was a lady walking down the street and she said, "What's going on in the park?" And I said, "Well, it's Canby's First Friday." She says, "First Friday? Well, what's that?" So I had an opportunity to introduce somebody new to that, and then she's like, "Well, I wish I had more time." I said, "It's every First Friday, go to the park." She's making plans to come in August, so that was a good idea to just walk around and talk to whoever is running around town. I wanted to thank, and I don't know if she's watching, but Mariah Dodson, our intern that worked with the Main Street program. She had tireless hours on that Canby Independence Day celebration, as well as many other projects that we've been working on. So her last day was the 30th of June. However, she still came and volunteered for the July 4th celebration and spent all day working her little fanny off. So big thanks to Mariah for all she's done for the city. I attended the retirement celebration for Don Hemstreet from the Canby Police Department, and so shout out to him too and thanking him for his service to the city. And enjoy your retirement. He and his wife retired at the same time, so off doing fun things now. Did the ribbon cutting for Hope Village and got to tour the Civic Building site. And as much as I love the building, my OCDs have no problem with the crooked walls, Rick. I'm really trying.
the new thing
here,
these
but
days.
In the name of architecture, I know, but I was twitching when I left the building. But it was fun. I got to take my kids, and they always love a construction site, so that was fun especially for my son. So. And
I have to admit, it drives me nuts too.
Okay, good. It's not just me.
The four square walls kind of thing. I know
I like-
that it's all about artistic interpretation with libraries, and so it is the way it's supposed to be.
Supposed to
It
be
just
that way,
isn't
I
the
know.
way I would do it.
But yeah, it was messing with me a little bit. But anyway, my son laughed at me. And Mayor Hudson and I did attend the C4 retreat where we talked much length about transportation and housing, and did some goal setting next steps for the C4 Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, for those who don't know what C4 is. I'm still going through my 50 plus pages of notes, so we will have a more robust report at a later date.
Be interested to hear about the 300 acres that the county wants to go ahead and put into their plan east of Canby.
Yeah, we'll have, well, and the mayor has a whole bunch of notes.
Yeah, we already-
we have a notebook,
Got it.
and I have about 30 photographs I took of all the pictures of all this,
Appreciate you going to that.
the
Thank you.
group discussions. We had all these, Post-its all over the walls, so, as I always do, take pictures of everything. So we're still sorting through all of our notes to make a report that will make sense to you all. So that's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Counselor Height.
So I usually start with the library, and I will again. So the Friends of the Library have their annual book sale, of course, every Independence Day, and they earned $2,000. So they wanted to say thanks to everybody that supported them in that. They had a great year. And a couple of events coming up. Lego night is tomorrow night at 6:30. That's
I
when
may
the
go to
bricks
that.
and minifigs
I'm gonna
folks
go to
bring
that, yeah.
bins and bins of free toys for kids and adults to play with. So all are welcome to that. And then this Friday, every Friday, there's a family event for free, usually at the gazebo or in the library. It's Amazing Prehistoric Animals is what it's called. And it's presented by the Museum of Natural and Cultural History. So 11 a.m. every Friday morning, but that's what's happening this Friday. With the school district, and one other thing, there's a story walk. It's a self-guided walk, so it's kind of in partnership with literacy and getting out, getting active during this reading season. The summer reading program, the theme is getting active. I forget technically what it's called. But so it's a self-guided, you walk around town, there's a map, you do different things, and then you get a stamp for participating. So anyway, I haven't done that yet, but it goes through July 9th for anybody that's interested. So a little bit of information on that. And then, Canby School District, free meals all summer long for 0 to 18-year-olds. I think I mentioned that before. But all of the locations and times are on the school district's website, if anybody's interested in that. The Canby Adult Center, a couple of things to report for them socially, I guess. There's a cruise in at Hope Village on July 7th, so tomorrow between 4 and 7. So cool cars and food. And then Canby Telecom is offering a class on iPhone help, iPhone support, July 28th. And that's for everybody, not just senior citizens. But it's helpful tips and whatnot. And it's at their little building that's adjacent. They have a little classroom building next to their headquarters there. And that's at 3 o'clock or 6:30. So there's two different classes there for free. Other things, so Allegro had their big dance recital end of June. A lot of members of the town come out, so good job to all those volunteers and dancers for doing a great job there. The Relay for Life, it looks like it was pretty successful. I joined my mom's team. It was called St. Patrick's Heroes, and they still had a whole bunch, like 30 people. I think probably some of you guys walked it again this year. But it was only a one-day event as opposed to a two-day, so they truncated it, I think due to lack of interest, actually. I think the interest level is kind of dwindling over the years, so they thought, well, let's make it one day as opposed to around the clock. But they still raised, I think, like at least $50,000, so that was successful. And then, the tour of the Library Civic Center, several of us went. That was cool, so thanks to Amanda for showing us around. That was, boy, the public is going to be excited when the doors open on September 16th-ish. So that was...
No, that's the date. Right?
No.
No-ish.
I get
Okay.
held to that. You're getting
Okay.
held to that.
Yeah, but that's very exciting to see that coming along. So well done. And then, I went to the ribbon cutting at Hope Village, too, and that was, are they duplexes? I'm not sure what those were called. But
Garden homes.
They're garden homes, they are.
Garden homes?
They are double homes.
Yeah, okay. So there was a show home, and a lot of people went through, so that was a good little community event. And then there was a roundtable discussion at the New Life Foursquare Church a couple weeks ago. So there's pastors and community leaders. They're coming together. The church on their campus is hosting something called Canby Cares on September 10th, so a couple months away. It's basically for needy families. It's kind of like a fair sort of thing where there's dental and medical checkups, that sort of thing. Maybe, free haircuts, heart screenings, that kind of, those sorts of services. And so they wanted to partner with their other churches in the area. And Canby Fire is involved, so a lot of people will be there. They're looking for volunteers too, of course. But they used to have something with Canby Center downtown at Waite Park. They discontinued it, I think, in 2011. So they're picking it up again. And I wish them success on that. There was the open house that Councillor Parker referred to about the 400 acres that the county's looking at. I attended that open house at the Canby Adult Center. About 50 people, I think, showed up. People that would be affected potentially got mailers. So that's how the word got out. It didn't get out to too many of us residents in town, I don't think, maybe via social media, but it was pretty well attended, and their questions were directed to the county staff and the community engagement firm. And then the next day, they hit Wilsonville, and then they hit, I believe it's Damascus was the other area that has 800 acres that they're looking at. But they're just receiving community input right now, questions, complaints, etc., to see what people think of this idea. So there'll be more that develops on that. We'll make sure to apprise everybody. The Fill the Boot thing is coming up on July 23rd, and I know the mayor made a proclamation, but I just wanted to remind people, because that's in a couple weeks. So that's to raise money for muscular dystrophy. The volunteer firefighters will be on 99E with their boots, and you drop coins in. So that's a nice cause. And Tony Crawford is joining the Historic Review Board. We're going to give him approval here pretty soon. I want to say hats off to him. He's done a lot of community work. Teacher of 35 years in the community. He's on all kinds of boards. But welcome to the Historic Review. That'll be fun to have him. And then Canby Independence Day, it was, super fun. Councillor Parker was there in force for like 10 hours, I think, helping out. So many volunteers. I was there for a couple hours in the beginning and in the middle. It was fun. And Jamie and Mariah, fantastic. And it gave me a lot of respect for what Lila and her crew had done in previous years, too. Like, wow, they took on a huge undertaking. And we're continuing with it, I think, in a very, we've continued it in a very exciting way by increasing the amount of activities and music, like you had mentioned, Sarah. And thanks for speaking out, too, Sarah, about your thoughts on the floats. That's been very controversial, and I think I wanted to make a statement that we don't support, the city doesn't support prejudice or racism or that message at all. It's the First Amendment, as you, I think, noted in your speech, the freedom of expression. So they're the floats are permitted for those reasons, but right, we do not stand for racism and Canby, so that's well noted, and thanks for your for bringing up the idea of the resolution. We'll consider it. Okay, that's all I've got.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Councillor Clint.
Chairman Dale, thank you. I got to take a tour as well of the new library. Thank you, Amanda, for leading us on a tour. I was there with both of you, and very impressed. I was a little put off by those crooked walls. That was a bit of an adjustment. I also attended the St. Paul Rodeo. I worked at 3 shifts, and I had a big successful rodeo weekend. I attended and participated in the Canby Independence Day celebration. Jamie and Greg actually asked me if I would be a car show judge, and I love cars, and so it worked out great. There was about 70 cars there this year. There were 12 categories with the first and second place, and one Best in Show, which was this year in 1968, Chevrolet Camaro won Best in Show. And I'd like to thank the other 2 volunteer judges, John Savory, who's one of our current planning commissioners. He's very much of a car enthusiast, and Chuck Coker, who's also a local Canby resident and car enthusiast. Let's see, it was a lot of fun. This next Monday, we'll have a traffic safety meeting at the Public Works Conference Room at 8:30 Monday morning. And then Monday evening, we'll have a Planning Commission meeting right here in the council chambers at 7 o'clock. Talking with Planning Director Brian Brown, he expects that the new McDonald's may be opening as early as this weekend. And the Sequoia Apartments should have 1 to 2 buildings completed by Christmas, and the whole project should be complete in less than a year.
Very good.
That's all I have.
Exciting times. Very good. For myself, I likewise attended the Hope Village Garden Home opening, and it was fun to reconnect with so many folks from around town that all came to attend. And we were comparing what years we graduated from Canby High School. I did not win that award, so I still feel good about myself for a while. Also served sausages next to Todd at the Canby Historical Society. Marched in the parade with my kids. I bought 1,000 pieces of candy, and the last 4 went to the last 2 kids on the backside. It came out perfect. So hopefully next year we'll need to buy a lot more candy. A reminder, Canby Utility is having a rate hearing open to the public next Tuesday, and that will be at 7 o'clock at Canby Utility headquarters, which is just kitty corner behind us over here on First Avenue. It's just a standard water rate increase. This year it works out to just about 7 cents a day of an increase. But if you're interested in attending, make sure you go to that. Likewise, attended the Don Hem Street retirement. Also toured the Civic Building. I didn't mind the crooked wall so much. Amanda was busily mocking me because I was inspecting the network wiring.
For sure.
Does it look okay?
It looks great. It's blue and it's Cat 5, Cat 6, excuse me. So I was really happy about that. On a sad note, Councilor Parker will empathize with me. This was my first year not to Allegro, and it felt really different.
Didn't have a child in it.
I did not have a child in it this year after so many years, and that felt just really different. And, but thank you for all those of you that still do. It's a great fun time. And then finally, I did neglect to mention, on behalf of the mayor, he wanted to pass on his personal thanks to all the very many volunteers and city staff that were involved with the Canby Independence Day. We have no idea how many thousands of hours went into it, but he wanted each and every one of you to know his personal thanks for that. And also to Chief Davis and the Canby Fire District for a great fireworks show, as usual. And it was safe, it was fun, there were lots of cheers, and it was just a great way for our beloved city to finish off the day. So I wanted to pass on those thanks, and those of all the council as well. And that concludes my report. The consent agenda tonight, before you do that, Councilor Parker, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Could you mention a little bit to us about how fortunate we are to have Tony Crawford?
Well, I've known Tony for 15 years. My kids both had him as an instructor. I used to introduce him by saying that he is nationally known as an educator. Now he is internationally known. He is a consultant working with schools. Tony is a sensitive, thoughtful person, and the fact that he is joining our historic review board makes it even more robust. This is really one of the committees that for a few years it kind of was moribund, that we didn't see or hear much out of it, and I have come to believe that historic preservation, historic awareness is a key part of our economic development. So thank you, Tony.
Very much. Thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to move to adopt the minutes of the June 15th, 2016 City Council regular meeting. A new outlet liquor license application for Wally's Chinese Kitchen, and appointment of Tony Crawford to the Historic Review Board for a term to end on June 30th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Parker, seconded by Councilor Hensley, to accept the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes of the June 15th, 2016 City Council regular meeting, approval of a new liquor license application for Wally's Chinese Kitchen, and the appointment of Tony Crawford to the Historic Review Board for a term to end June 30th, 2018. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries 6-0. Next up, we have resolutions and ordinances. Rick.
Yes, this, you have before you ordinance 1445. This would require a roll call vote, as it is a second reading. The ordinance is to authorize a contract with Kern McLeod. The contract amount is for $118,000, and it is for engineering services to complete the Malino Road sanitary sewer pumping station and pipeline. We anticipate that the construction cost, the preliminary estimate is $825,000 to complete the project. I personally think that's a little bit low. I think it will go beyond that. Those of you who know where I'm speaking of will recognize that this pumping station will go in the very south corner of Malino Road and 13th, and is we have a little triangle, but it will require that we get easements along certain private property. The contractor, Kern McLeod, is responsible to do that. Will also require, I believe, the formation of an advanced financing district, which is not my favorite instrument, but appropriate to this particular project, with the outcome being the ability to begin additional construction on the south side of the city that can be supported by this new station.
Does council have any questions? All right, can we ask our city attorney to execute the roll call vote for us?
Yes. So, Councilor.
Can we make a motion?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do, thank you.
A first and a second
President
first. Thank you.
I move that we adopt ordinance 1445, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Kern McLeod Incorporated, consulting engineers for engineering services to complete the Malino Road sanitary sewer pumping station and pipelines.
Second.
All righty. It was moved by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1445, authorizing a contract with Kern McLeod Inc. Consulting Engineers for engineering services to complete the Malino Road sanitary sewer pumping station and pipelines. Are you ready for the vote?
Councilor Rocha.
Yes.
Councilor Parker.
Yes.
Councilor Hensley.
Yes.
Council President Dale.
Aye.
Councilor Height.
Aye.
Councilor Coleman.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good, and motion passes. Next up, we have new business. Rick?
Yes, we have a proposal, because we will not have a quorum, to cancel the July 20th, 2016 City Council meeting.
Do we need to make
And for that, you just need a consensus?
Yes.
All right, is the council okay with that? Consensus?
I won't be here, so sure.
Yeah, you're part of the not quorum.
You can't talk
I'd be here by myself, I think.
Next up, we have the city administrator's business and staff reports.
Yes, I have just a couple things to speak with you about this evening. I do need to report to you unhappily that the appeal that we filed with Department of Environmental Quality on a penalty of $9,798 that we received for failure to complete the final series of water quality tests associated with our stormwater runoff system was denied by DEQ. We are not going to further appeal this. However, I have requested and received from DEQ a supplemental environmental project, and it's our intent to, which can be, when approved or if approved by DEQ, can be used to offset the penalty in an amount equal to the value of the penalty. The project has to be equal to or greater than the cost of the penalty. The project does have to meet certain specific criteria, so I just got this late this afternoon. I'll be sitting down with our public works staff over the next couple of weeks identifying a project. We have until August 12th, I believe, to submit the application to DEQ. I'll be drafting a letter to DEQ before July 15th, formally indicating to them that we will not file an appeal with the administrative law judge on DEQ's finding of the penalty, as I don't believe that we would be successful in defending our position.
And so this is an opportunity to convert penalty dollars into
Project dollars, yes. And they certainly got our attention. I would also like to mention that I also received late this afternoon the first draft of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and all of the cities of Clackamas County relating to a 6% gas tax proposed for the November ballot. And I haven't even had a chance to review this, but as those of you who were at C4 know, And those of you who read your emails, because I sent you notes about it last week, the Clackamas County Commissioners are proceeding with the placement of a ballot initiative for the November ballot that, if approved by the voters, would impose for I believe it's 7 years, for a specified period of time, a 6% gas tax, 40% of which would go to the cities within Clackamas County allocated on a per capita basis.
That's a 6 cent, not 6%.
6 cents.
Yes.
Excuse me.
6 cents.
Right.
And it is for 7 years, it'll sunset, and it's also for a specific project list.
Yes, 6 cents, that is correct. And thank you for that correction. 'Cause that's- and it even says it, 6 cents per gallon. So we'll have an opportunity to read this. This probably won't be the final draft because the commissioners haven't had a chance to review and critique it. It came out to staff and out to all the city managers, as I indicated, late this afternoon. So we'll take a look at it and submit any comments we have and then see where we go from here. Would also like to inform the public that you will see a lot of construction going on in Canby during the month of July, as this is the month that we'll be doing virtually all of the paving projects funded with our street maintenance fee. And so there will be some disruption. Our apologies for that, but following this disruption will be improved streets. So we're hopeful that the disruption will be as minimal as possible. And that's all I have, except another expression of appreciation for the excellent work that you did on your report.
We may have another yellow card.
Great. Do we have any questions for our city administrator?
Thank
Nope,
you, Rick.
we're good there. All right. Next up, we have another opportunity for citizen input.
All right, I am going to write her name down and then pass it on to you.
Go ahead and come on forward.
Her name is Cindy Riley.
All right, Cindy, can you come on up to the microphone? It's not a loudspeaker, it just records you for the broadcast.
My name is Cindy Riley, and I don't know any of you, but I have lived in Canby, or like for 25 years, we lived about a mile out of Canby, and last year we moved into the city limits, so we lived in the Tofty farm area. So we basically raised our children and have been part of the Canby community for many, many years. I also retired last year, and for the last pretty close to 30 years, I was the director of finance for a multinational software development company. And in the course of my work required me to work internationally, so I probably traveled over the past 25 years to 45 different countries and did business in large communities and medium-sized communities and in small communities. So I wasn't there as a tourist, I was there as a business person and getting to know local business people, local cultures, and looking at the communities and how they lived, okay? So I have to say that I have only had one sad day in the Canby community. Only one out of all those years. And it was related to our last Independence Day celebration. And the sadness came on Sunday afternoon when I was trying to explain to my grandchildren, who are of age to understand, they're preteens, why there would be Confederate flags in the city. So they're old enough to know the different there's been a lot in the news about Confederate flags, even from the South, and the controversy and the implication they send to people. So the reason I mention my international travel is when you travel internationally, you get a much different perspective on life in general, and on people and diversity and different cultures. And I can tell you that the most thriving communities, the happiest, where I saw people that were truly happy, enjoying their community, loved living where they did, were the communities that really valued inclusiveness, diversity, and those communities prospered. And so I was hard to, I know there's freedom of speech, I know all that, and I know what you said about the city not condoning hate or standing for those principles, but when you have a family event that is sponsored by the city and you see that, it's almost implicitly implied that you do support it. So I don't know what the answer is, but I probably will not participate in city events that have that. To me, it's just not what we're about as a community. I love living here. I was raised in Portland. I love urban life, but I wanted to raise my family here. And now my grandchildren are here. And that was sad. That was sad having to explain to 4 children why we would have that in our town. So I don't know what you can all do about it, but I would hope that you can still honor freedom of speech and not allow demonstrations of hate in our city. I think we want to raise our children in a better way than that. So that's what I had to say. I love, now that I'm retired, I love being part of this community, but I don't want that. So, thank you.
Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it very much.
Can I just make a comment relative
bet.
to that? And I absolutely appreciate the sentiment and the comment that was made. But as a public agency, we have an absolute responsibility to honor the Constitution of the United States, and the First Amendment to the Constitution is critically important to the freedoms that we enjoy. As a city, we have a perfect opportunity, as was expressed earlier, to share our lack of support for hate-related, in this case, floats. But we don't have the right to exclude something simply because it bothers us. As a teaching opportunity, perhaps what I would tell one of my nine grandchildren would be that this is something that we don't respect, it's something that we don't honor, but it's something that we accept because it is part of the principles that we enjoy with the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, and that's freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And we can't censor one group of people and pretend that every other one is fine. We simply can't do that. We have to fulfill our responsibility to support the Constitution of the United States, and that does include the First Amendment. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Well, I agree with you. And I also think the Supreme Court's given governments a pretty clear indication of what Rick said. What we can do, actually, is what you can do, is if we could return this to a private nonprofit instead of a city government, the private nonprofit can discriminate. They can set whatever rules they want. Governments can't discriminate. But if we, this may be another reason to spin this back out and return it to a nonprofit. The history of this was that 7 months ago, the previous nonprofit suddenly and unexpectedly quit, and we did not want to see the celebration not proceed. So we picked it up for the first time as a municipal project. With that comes certain rules that we have to follow. But again, if one option on getting around this is if we exported this out back into a nonprofit, which I would like, frankly, I would like to see. And part of my strategy of exporting the Main Street program into a freestanding nonprofit. So there may be a way of getting from here to there, but we as municipal officers don't get to say, well, I find the Republican Party repugnant this year, so I don't want Republicans marching. So I think we're thinking about it. We've got our legal mind engaged on it, and we're trying to address it.
Can I ask a question? I don't want to go.
Sure, go ahead.
The chair.
So in 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States actually, they actually decided against the organization that was in the parade on an issue regarding whether or not what they were asking the state of Texas to do, because it was considered government speech, or whether or not it was considered free speech. And the Supreme Court actually decided that because it was a state-sponsored situation, it was about a license plate, that it was considered government speech, and the government has the right to tell groups that do not support inclusivity that they do not belong, that anything that happens at a state or city or government-sponsored event becomes government speech. And through that, the government has a right to say that you do not speak for us, and therefore we may exclude you from this event, because there is a constitutional difference between government speech and free speech. So could we look into, as a city, whether or not anything that happens at a city-sponsored event would be considered government speech or private free speech, which are two separate issues according to the Supreme Court, and I can send you the information on the case.
Yeah, feel free to send that. I don't know what the distinction is between the facts of the case, because I'm not sure which one you're talking about. But I do know there is a difference, too, between the government forcing speech on people and the government opening up a public forum. And
Everybody's required to have a license.
Yeah.
Right, but it was about whether or not the flag should be on the license plate, and the Supreme Court ordered that that was considered government speech because it was a government issue. Right. So
And I know there's been other interesting cases where it's in New Hampshire, one of those where live free or die, that motto couldn't be forced on the population. So I mean, it just depends, I guess, what the specific facts are of the case, and who's on the court at the time
I
too.
feel like if a float's going to hand out information to my children, if we're going to give them flyers, that becomes government speech at a city-sponsored event. So
Do you
it's
have
worth
a copy
looking
of the
into.
flyer?
I
I've
don't,
been
because I
asking
threw it away.
people, and
We
nobody.
refused it, and our friends, our people of color friends in the community who were handed the information, which, by the way, made them feel like the city was not the city for them, threw it away as well. So I wish, in retrospect, I would have kept it.
Yeah, I wish I
But I didn't
We've been
want
trying to find one.
I have one.
Yeah, I don't want to.
you have one, Tom?
Cameron from my office, who's at the plate, brought one in.
Oh,
so
great. If you can get that
it's on my desk. I'll bring
get
it
that to
in.
Joe.
And I mean, I don't
see what
mind
it
looking at it and seeing if there's a case on point that, allows for some sort of, when it's free speech, there's such an elevated, your strict scrutiny applies and First Amendment. And then Oregon Constitution actually probably protects a little more even than the federal government in terms of speech. So we have to,
And
we
did
have to be
read
very
that case.
careful.
I'm familiar with it, and I think the facts are a little bit different than what we have here, because I did review
They are
the case.
different for sure. It's not a license plate.
And I would note that I have 3 grandchildren of color, and so I am very sensitive to the color issue, both African American and Latino.
If they find out that you still can't do anything about that legally, how do you get a nonprofit group to sponsor the event? And
so-
what's the problem?
One would have to step forward and take over complete responsibility for all aspects of it. And, I mean, seriously. And we would have to wash our hands of it and say, okay, you get to make the decisions, and any calls that would come to the city, we would redirect to you, and we would answer no questions relating to the event.
What was the nonprofit group that had it before?
General Canby
General
Days.
Canby Days.
Oh, okay, all right.
So you just have to set up a nonprofit and, get the city's blessing to be the nonprofit in charge of that activity.
Okay.
Yeah, which General Canby Days did, they did have the city's blessing to.
Are they still a nonprofit group? Are they still in existence?
They dissolved.
They disbanded.
They disbanded.
Or dissolved, yeah.
I was under the impression, though, that they allowed any float to register as well, because they thought that they would be liable and they would be sued as well.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if they would be sued or not.
If the problem is if you have a public forum, right, and even if you're a quasi-public body, and they aren't, but I mean when you open up the idea of a zone where speech in our country has been, lauded, then you run some risk by then controlling which speech you like and which speech you don't like. But when it's a private nonprofit, it's not the government saying it. So then you have to look at whether or not you're, could be arguably. I tell people all the time, you can be sued for anything in the country, right? It's just whether or not it has merit and how much you want to pay to defend it. So, I'm not going to give legal advice to the future nonprofit right now, but you would have a different level of scrutiny and a different level of liability that
And
you
the
would look
nonprofit
at.
would have to make the determination whether they wanted to assume that risk of denying participation. And then it falls on your shoulder to make that difficult decision. And it's not an easy decision to decide who goes and who doesn't go. It becomes very complicated when the burden is placed on you rather than us. And when you accept that responsibility, you accept all that comes with it. And it's not an easy task.
So, question?
I know, I didn't fill out my yellow card, so I apologize. I'm Sarah's husband, Chris. I live at the same address.
Okay.
I won't speak for anyone else. I'm relatively new to the city, and I love living here. A worry for me, besides the freedom of speech, which I think we all embrace and love, our First Amendment, is that the city now has a precedent of taking stances and opinions on things that may not have something specifically to do with them. And my worry is, and my concern at least, is that silence emboldens those who believe in this kind of thing that we're talking about, either from outside, who even knows where Condon is, from outside the town, or who are already here. And it's definitely not, when I see this flow coming around the corner, and it's almost like a record scratch, everyone's cheering, having a great time, and it got real quiet. And I'm thinking to myself, I would boo this. I don't agree with it, but is this something the city wants? Am I going to be rode out of town on a rail if I don't agree with it? Is this a city function? So my hope is that with the similar opinions on the gun laws or dispensaries in town, that we hear some strong words from the council about what we had and anything going on in the future regarding what our community stands for.
And I would just clarify and to directly answer your question. The city will absolutely 100% support your right to boo a float that you don't agree with. That's your First Amendment right.
Absolutely right.
That's your
And
First
we're going
Amendment
to support and defend your right the same way that we would support and defend the rights of the float. And whether we agree with your booing or the content of the float, we're going to support your right to exercise your First Amendment privilege.
I won't. I swear I'll be done after this.
It's okay.
I do want to add that I know that we're in the process of trying to attract new businesses, a new model for the town that includes mixed-use living. And I saw on Facebook this week the hashtag Stay Classy Canby. And if you think that floats like that don't reflect on businesses and people that live here in terms of how this city grows and what our reputation is, to see pictures of the float in our parade with the hashtag Stay Classy Canby from large organizations in the Portland area, it's embarrassing. And I do believe in protecting First Amendment rights, and I do know that organizations like the Portland Rose Festival do, because I talked to them today. I called and asked how they determine who can be in a parade and who can't be, and they're a private organization, but they control it, and they do it very well, that there are ways to do it. So if it's to switch to a nonprofit, that's fine, but I will not stay in a city that allows the Confederate flag to go down the street. I won't raise my children there. I won't do it.
So I
believe in free speech, but I won't raise my children
So
here.
I would
And
make
know other people won't.
public appeal to you and anybody else in the city with an interest in forming a private nonprofit for the purpose of taking over the parade to go to work and get it
I'd
done.
love to have a nonprofit.
We'd be very, very happy to have that.
You'll find us very
I'll give you
supportive.
$1 to start it.
Mr. Chair, could I ask you a
Yes.
question? So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a new 501c3. It could actually go to one already established if an existing one wanted to take it over, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
If they have
Do you have
budget
one,
and
Clint?
volunteers for it.
Well, there's plenty of those out there.
Clinton knows a lot of people. He does. So. Yes.
And as long as we're doing a round robin on this.
Mayor's gone tonight.
It's Mayor's Gone small.
Protocol's out the window.
Chris, is your last name Stern?
And I'm sorry, I started.
But there's
You put your name there.
but there's some question, for example, if someone came to the private nonprofit, let's say it was formed, and they had some standards on things that, we don't want things that offend people, that offend children, that raise questions of, and the question was raised to me that if those standards were in place, could they at all be used as a reason to block a proposed gay pride float? Are there people in Canby who would not support the expression of that lifestyle on a float down the street, having people have to explain to their children what is being said, and pushing this to what I observed 2 weeks ago in Portland with some of the transgender and people exercising their freedom of speech to dress as they wish, that I could see an entirely different crowd in this council chambers saying that. So it's a double-edged sword once you move away from the all come to we're going to set these rules, that it can cut both ways. People can say, well, okay, we're not going to allow the Confederate flag because it forces questions, it implies a lifestyle that I don't agree in, that I reject, and person could turn around and say, I don't want Planned Parenthood in the float. I don't want the pregnancy center in there. So I think, Tim, you used the term slippery slope. That once you go down that road, it's hard to stop. And but we're going to see how far we can go, because I think we are of the same heart you are.
Yes.
But we are sworn officers to uphold the Constitution, and we're going to make sure our city attorney doesn't sleep until he finishes research on this.
Thank you. So you got the druthers of the council, right?
I did. I'll make that an action review item.
Very good. Well,
Read that one out.
and it's appropriate too, because it'll be folded in as part of our event review and debriefing that's coming up anyway.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy to do it, actually.
yeah, that'll be interesting. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. And tell us your name. Rena. Thanks for coming tonight.
And are you new to Canby, did you say?
More or less. I moved up to Oregon from California about 3 yeers ago. I go to Willamette, and my mom lives here in town. We live on the same street as Sarah and Chris, so we know them sort of through that. And I was not at the parade. But when my mom came home from it and said that the Confederate flag was flying down the street, the immediate thought that I had was, if we're protecting the right of someone to fly a flag of hatred, then what you're saying is you're protecting the right to make others feel unsafe instead of protecting them. In my mind, I've only lived here for 3 years. That's not the vibe that I get from the wider community. I'm not a person of color. I cannot say what it's like to be subjected to that on terms of race, but I can say that it's not a good sign. And if that's something that we want to protect, I don't know if I want to live here. I don't know if I want to condone what the 4th of July represents to me. I don't know if I want to be a part of that.
If there was an ISIS float and an ISIS flag, there would be like a line out there would be a crowd around this building. For me, it's not necessarily about stopping free speech and everybody's entitled to have their opinion. But I feel like the culture of the city comes from its leaders, and there were some ugly things online from people in the town who were all about that float, and in a way that I think unnerved people who were of similar heart. I think who were here. So, like for me, hearing from the leaders and the people about, we believe in freedom of speech, but the town is not about segregation and these other things that we might have seen at the parade that day, goes a long way.
Thank you. Rena, can we get your last name? Since we,
Bicknell, Bicknell.
and did you get that, Joe?
I did, thank you.
Thanks.
And we're here every first and third Wednesday, so we'll see you at future council meetings.
Except for the next one.
next one.
That one, Rob. Well, Emmett, fine school. Thanks for going there. Appreciate it. What year?
I am about to be a senior, major in psychology, minor in Spanish.
Congratulations. Very good. That's great. Thanks for coming tonight. Joe, would you mind doing the action review for us tonight?
Not at all. You've approved the consent agenda, you've adopted ordinance 1445, and you've canceled the July 20th meeting.
Very good.
See, we needed to make up for all the talking that we're not going to be able to do
Next week. That's right. Do we have an exec session tonight, Joe?
Not tonight.
All righty. And Mr. City Administrator, have we concluded all the business we need to do tonight? All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Height, second by Councilor Rocha to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries 6-0. Good night, Canby. We'll see you in August. Bye-bye.